The contact came in cold. That was the first entry in my log. Cold contact, bearing 7 Mark III, range 11,000 lengths, 0 thermal signature, 0 drive emission, 0 active transponder. The hull was dark. Whatever it had been that way for a long time. I am Veth Oral, Senior Lector of the 44th Survey Complement, Ledhari Assessorate. My function is classification. My instruments are precise. My record, before that shift, was unblemished. 412 species encountered. 412 species catalogued, absorbed into the Assessorate's archive, and administered accordingly. The Ledhari do not conquer by force. We conquer by knowing. We read a civilization's capacity, assign it a grade, and the grade determines everything that follows. Grade 7 and above, peer status, negotiation. Grade 4 through 6, supervised integration. Grade 3 and below, absorption. No civilization has ever disputed the classification, because no civilization had ever understood, not in time, what the reading meant. I tell you this so you understand what I believed I was doing. When I powered the deep scan array and turned it on the dark hull, it was not a threat. Paperwork. The hull was enormous. My instruments registered it at 940 meters stem to stern, a wide beam profile suggesting heavy cargo or survey configuration. But the design language matched nothing in 40,000 years of assessorate. The alloy composition came back exotic. Carbon-laced ferrous plate over an interior lattice our spectrometers could not fully resolve. Scorch marks ran the length of the dorsal spine. Hull plating along the port quarter was mismatched, placed in at least 4 separate repair cycles with 4 different metal grades. Whatever it had been through it more than once. I noted all of this in the log. I noted it the way I noted everything, carefully, without alarm. Reshidri query, I said to my secondary, Proctor Delav. Run the hull profile against the Assessorate's full alien vessel index. Cross-reference the ferrous lattice composition against any known construction tradition. Delav ran it. No match, Senior Lector. Reference the scorch mark distribution. Battle damage pattern analysis. Delav paused. Pattern is consistent with rail-accelerated projectile impact, high velocity, multiple engagements, multiple vectors. Another pause. Damage is old. Decades at minimum, perhaps longer. I looked at the hull on my display. It filled the screen, dead weight, cold iron, a relic of something that no longer existed. The Assessorate's 47 ships held position around it in a standard classification envelope. 1,000 lengths. All sectors covered, sensors at full aperture, standard procedure for an unknown hulk. We were not worried. We are never worried. The classification envelope has contained every unknown contact in Assessorate history. Initiate deep scan, I said. Full spectrum. Registry, drive signature, weapon signature, crew presence indicator, AI core ping. I want a complete file. The deep scan array takes 11 seconds to cycle. It is the most powerful sensor instrument in the Assessorate fleet. Its beam penetrates 10 meters of solid alloy, resolves interior structure to centimeter precision, reads power cell chemistry from across the length of a city. Second 3, I got crew presence, 0 biological signatures, confirmed derelict. At second 6, I got drive core reading, cold, no fuel load, no ignition potential, confirmed unpowered. At second 9, I got weapons signature. And the number that came back made Delav read it aloud twice, because neither of us believed it the first time. 48 primary rail batteries, Delav said. 12 secondary point defense clusters. 6, he stopped, started again. 6 ventral mass driver bays. Senior Lector, those are not survey weapons. Cross-reference, I said. My voice was steady. I am trained for composure. Compare the weapons package against known military configurations. Delav's answer took 4 seconds. The closest analog in our records is a Ledhari dreadnought suppressor class, circa 11,000 years ago. That class carried 22 primaries. He looked at me. This vessel carries twice that, and our dreadnought suppressor was the heaviest weapons platform we have ever constructed. At second 11, the scan completed. What I did not know, what no one in the Assessorate knew, because no one had ever survived a deep scan of a vessel from the Ardent Compact long enough to document it, is that the unbroken Meridian did not merely carry weapons. It carried a targeting architecture that was passive until activated. And the activation condition was a full Spectrum deep scan from an outside source. The ship was not dormant, it was listening. It had been listening for however long it had drifted in that unclaimed corridor, cold and dark and patient, waiting for something to read it. Our scan completed its cycle. The unbroken meridian used the beam return to range every vessel in our envelope to within 4 meters. I know this now. I did not know it at second 11. At second 11, I was still looking at the weapons count, and Delov was still talking, and across the fleet 47 captains were still in their standard classification postures, unworried, routine. The hull lit, not lit the way a ship powers up, not the slow warm cycle of drive coils, not the gradual brightening of running lights as systems come online in sequence. It lit the way a trap springs. Every port along the dorsal spine opened simultaneously. The engine block at the stern ignited in a single pulse that our instruments registered as a drive output equivalent to 11 accessorate cruisers at full burn. The sensor return from the hull changed in 0.3 seconds from cold derelict to fully operational warship. A transition our classification index had no category for, because no vessel in our records had ever made it. Contact, Delov's voice cracked. The contact is, I see it, I said. First rail salvo fired at 0.6 seconds after ignition. The unbroken meridian did not warm up its weapons. There was no targeting cycle we could observe. No power-up delay, no ranging shot. The targeting solution had been complete before we knew the ship was awake. 48 primary batteries firing in 8 battery volleys with a 0.4-second interval between each. A mathematical sequence, not a battle frenzy. The ship was not angry. It was not in a hurry. It was working. The accessorate cruiser Lethus Formal was the first vessel in our complement to register a hit. Then the parallel Accord. Then survey tender Orvith's Margin, which had been positioned at the rear of our envelope. 11,000 lengths from the contact, 3 rounds through its forward section in the opening 8 seconds before anyone on my ship had given a command. I gave commands. We all gave commands. The accessorate has battle protocols, though we have not used them in 11,000 years. Since we became the civilization, classifies rather than the civilization that fights. The protocols are in the system. We ran them. They were written for opponents who needed time to target us. Evasive pattern Vethus 7, I said, and our helmsman executed it, and I watched the unbroken meridians return fire, track us through the maneuver, with a correction delay of 0.1 seconds. The ship adjusted faster than our own targeting computers modeled the adjustment. I ordered a second evasive. The correction delay was 0.08 seconds. The meridian was learning our patterns faster than we could generate new ones. All ships scatter. I transmitted on the fleet channel. The classification envelope. Maximum drive. All vectors. 43 ships acknowledged. 4 did not. They were already gone. What followed was 11 minutes and 22 seconds. I have the log. I have reviewed it many times in the months since, in the life pod, before my rescue, because the life pod's instruments were still recording, and I could not stop watching the file. The unbroken meridian did not chase. It did not need to. Its rail batteries had a range of 22,000 lengths, double the diameter of our classification envelope. Every ship that broke the envelope in any direction was still inside the ship's effective fire zone for the first 6 minutes of flight. The meridian held position at the center of what had been our formation, and worked outward from the nearest ships to the farthest, methodically, in the same 8-battery sequence without pausing between targets. I watched the Sarenthal Commission, our flagship, carrying Admiral Proctor Mariff, take a full 8-battery volley at minute 3. The Commission was our heaviest vessel, 400 meters, double-hulled, rated for combat survivability against any threat in our classification index. The volley penetrated the double hull and ignited the drive core. The resulting explosion was visible at my position, 11,000 lengths out, instrument. I watched the survey tender quiet accounting attempt to surrender. I do not know how the tender's captain communicated the intent. Perhaps by cutting drives, by broadcasting on a universal frequency, by aiming no weapon. The Meridian's next volley did not acknowledge the distinction. I do not say this to condemn the ship. Say it because it is in the log, and the log is what I was trained to record. The accessorate classifies. I classified what I saw. At minute 7, I was in a life pod. The classification complement vessel Veth Oral, my ship, my designation, 41 years of unblemished record. Had taken 2 rounds through the forward section and the captain had ordered abandon vessel. I obeyed. The pod ejected at a lateral vector and I watched through the small port as my ship came apart. At minute 9, there were 6 accessorate vessels still under power. At minute 11, there were none. At minute 11 and 22 seconds, the unbroken Meridian's guns went quiet. I am not certain how long I drifted before I understood what I was looking at. The pod had a small display. External camera, low resolution. The Meridian was visible as a bright mass against the debris field that had been my fleet. Its engines were still lit. It had not moved from the position it had taken at ignition. While I watched, a secondary system on the hull activated. Not weapons. The profile was different, narrower, directional. It took me several minutes to identify it. When I did, I recorded the identification in my log in the same flat tone I use for all entries because I did not know what else to do. It was a deep scan array, the same instrument type as mine. The unbroken Meridian was scanning the debris field, reading what was left of 47 ships, their hull compositions, their drive signatures, their weapons packages, the grade of the alloy in their plating. It scanned each wreck in sequence, the beam moving from target to target with the same methodical interval the guns had used. I realized, watching it, that the ship was classifying us. I do not know what grade we received. I do not know if the Ardent Compact has a classification system, or what its grades mean, or what follows from them. I know only that when the scan completed, the unbroken Meridian logged something, a brief transmission, tight beam, aimed at a vector I could not resolve, and then powered its drive to full and moved. It did not look back, it did not linger. It moved the way a survey vessel moves when the survey is done, on to the next entry. I was recovered 19 days later by a merchant hauler, crossing the outer corridor. I gave them my log. I have given it to everyone since, because I am a lector of the assessorate and recording what I see is the only function I have left. And because I believe I have believed it since minute 11. That the Ardent Compact knew exactly what we were when we arrived in that corridor. They knew, because they had been reading the assessorate for longer than the assessorate had been reading anyone else. And when they decided we had been read well enough, they sent the unbroken Meridian to fill out the file. The assessorate has not dispatched a survey complement to unclaimed space since. That is not a decision. That is an absence. The fleet's sensors still run, the archive still updates, the protocols still sit in the system, but no one has given the order. No one has walked to a console, powered the deep scan array, and pointed it at an unknown hull. No one wants to know what answers back.